Yo, how's everybody doing? It's your boy Jesse, aka Survival Punk, aka The Wide Guard, aka oh no, it's that guy. And as you guys probably already know, the PTB is out and the updated patch notes are released as well.
Oh here we go again.
But surely it's not as bad as we all thought it was gonna be, right? Sorry to say, but the game is cooked. A moment of silence for a fallen ASIN. Okay, let's get this over with. Alrighty, so to start things off, there's something I should get out of the way first. That, of course, being that BHVR has made the wise decision to cancel the tunneling and slugging changes. Till next PTB.
Good, great, grand, wonderful.
So don't you worry, they're still gonna fuck us over. But until then, as you already know, BHVR has, alongside the PTB, released all the information on the changes they're making to perks, the tunneling changes themselves, the slugging changes themselves, as well as all the specific percentages. But before we continue, there's something I need to get out of the way first. BHVR, unironically, you did it good, and I'm proud of you. That's right, you did something good for once. After years of literal begging from the community, including myself, you have finally gave killers the ability to track hook states on survivors. Glory be, hallelujah. Can I get an amen? I don't know whose idea it was to do this, but he or she, I owe you. I owe you free blowjobs for life. Now, before we get too excited, remember what I said earlier. The PTB changes are not going to be going through this time. They're postponing them till next PTB. But at the end of the day, this is a good sign, and this would be a beautiful and welcome change. Now, I should clarify, this does put a slight damper on everything I said last video about confusing the killer and clone stratting and tracking hook states. But 95% of what I said still holds true, due to the fact that you can still have two players with the same character and the same outfit and the same hook states. So, take with that what you will. But seriously, this was super good, super healthy for the game, and you did something right for once, and I'm proud of you.
Good job!
But now that all the warm and fuzzies are out of my chest, I can go back to telling you everything you're doing wrong. That's what I'm good at. So I know in the patch notes they talked about the tunneling changes first, but I would rather start with the slugging changes since that's where I started in the last video, and I want to keep it coherent. Additionally, we're going to be skipping the first part of the slugging changes since it's nothing new. It's talking about the 90-second bar and how that works. Basically, the only new information is there's a progress bar underneath the recovery bar, very similar to the anti-camp mechanic bar. Then after that, it just talks about how you can crawl and recover at the same time. We already know this. And additionally, it talks about the crawling speed, which, by the way, is increased to 1.05 meters. That doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, It is.
Start your engines.
What the fuck?
I am speed, motherfucker.
I'm fast as fuck, boy.
But seriously, guys, look how far they're going in a short amount of time. That is more than enough distance to go from the original slug position, potentially, to an ally who's still working on a generator. And then all the ally has to do is hop off the generator for a second and finish helping you up, and you can both hop on that generator. There's like no time in between helping up the ally and getting on the generator. Fully articulating exactly what I was trying to say last video when I said they're taking the anti-efficiency aspect away from slugging. Because survivors can maintain maximum efficiency by not helping up their ally, ergo sum, slugging loses its value because it loses its pressure. Now, let's move on to the tunneling section of the patch notes. Again, I'm not going to go over it because it was all covered in my previous video in great detail. However, I will say it's quite startling that not only do survivors get 10% haste plus endurance and the overloaded elusive status effect, but they get it for 30 seconds. To put that into perspective, that means I can hook someone, right? Go find a completely different survivor, chase them, down them, hook them, and if I come across the survivor I hooked previously, keep in mind, I am by definition not tunneling at this point. There is a high probability they still have the anti-tunneling buffs, giving me no choice but to drop chase. Because even if I somehow catch up to them through 10% haste and infinity stealth, they still have endurance, effectively punishing killers for playing too well. This is especially problematic for hit-and-run killers, as well as killers like Legion and Oni, who rely on smacking survivors for their powers. Made even worse by the fact that not only does the HUD hide crucial information about the last survivor you hooked from you, but we don't get killer instinct on them for the next 30 seconds, which doubly fucks Legion. Not just Legion though, of course. Every killer in the game to some degree, especially killers who are B tier or lower, not only depend on killer instinct, but have killer instinct tied to their powers. Examples being the Artist, Xenomorph, and Pinhead. Could you imagine playing Pinhead, a rare NFT of a killer, and bothering to master him and memorize box logic, just for it to not even matter anyways? Reason being, if the survivor you last hooked solves the box, not only do you not get killer instinct, but due to how the power is coded, you can't even teleport to them. And even if you did, they'd still be under the effects of the unhook buffs. Speaking of hooking, that's a good segue into our next segment. We now have the specific percentages for the base kit killer buffs. You know, our base kit incentive for 12 hooking. Now, right out the gate, I must say, I'm a little surprised. 20% bonus to the next generator kicked is a lot more than I thought they were going to give us. So, you would think I'd be actually pretty happy about this, right? Well, yes, but also no. I still stand by everything I said about this bullshit Pop Goes the Weasel buff last video, and I stand by it for 3 reasons. Reason number 1, like I said, the vast majority of killers cannot properly make use of this buff. Reason number 2, the only killers who can make proper use of this buff, the top 5 killers in the game, only receive half of the benefits. Additionally, like I stated in my previous video, they could give it 15% or more and it still wouldn't change the fact that Pop was quite honestly the worst choice they could have made if they were going to choose a anti-gen perk to make base kit. And reason number 3, looking at this 110% confirmed my suspicion that they were going to nerf anti-gen perks. We will elaborate on that later. Moving on, we also have 10% haste for 15 seconds. This is actually pretty good. A lot more than I was expecting. I think if I remember straight, I said 5% for maybe 5 seconds. This is considerably more than that. This is actually pretty dope and can actually be useful in some scenarios for lower tier killers. However, I still staunchly stand by what I said last video. This effect grossly benefits the top 5 killers in the game, as well as overall dash slop killers and teleport killers more so than your regular M1 killers. That said, at least they gave a percentage that can be worthwhile for the killers who don't get to actually see full benefit. Is what I would say if not for the next part. Breaking a pallet or damaging a survivor removes this bonus. Like, behavior, you just couldn't fucking help yourselves, could you? You just had to find some way to fuck it up, even when you do something right, huh? Now, the damaging survivors makes sense because that assumes I'm in chase, and gaining a damage state, by definition, is me benefiting from the haste. But you know what survivors tend to do in chase? Drop pallets, you fucking dickheads. Which means, in the majority of scenarios, you don't actually see full benefit of the 10% haste, because you're probably going to, at some point within that 15 seconds, be forced to break a pallet. Next up, we have the barbecue and chili effect, which surprisingly actually is a lot stronger than I thought it was going to be, because I figured it was only going to be like maybe one survivor at a time, but no, it works like straight up barbecue and chili, just only affecting survivors who have equal or less hook stakes than the person you just hooked. The only issue with it so far is the fact that it is extremely buggy and doesn't work half the time. Additionally, they're getting rid of barbecue and chili, effectively turning it into a borderline worthless anti-gen perk, but we'll get into that shortly as well. The last thing I want to point out about these buffs is the fact that the top 5 killers in the game apparently aren't the only killers that get a nerfed variation. The new killer, the Krasu, gets a nerfed variation as well, which is crazy to me. And I will explain this further in my upcoming video about the new characters they're adding to the game. But suffice it to say, the Krasu is not nearly strong enough to warrant this, really putting into perspective just how well Behavior understands their own game, that they would take a subpar character like the Krasu and put them on the same level as the fucking nurse. Moving on, let's talk about the dreaded tunneling penalties.
Now the main problem area is up here. All of this going on up here is what's causing me the most physical discomfort. It's like a visceral reaction of discontent coming from this area. This area is not good either. I hate this, but I'm mainly worried about this.
When a survivor dies to a hook action or mori before 6 total hook states, the remaining survivors gain a 25% repair speed bonus. It's even worse than I thought it was going to be. When I read the pre-PTB patch notes, I assumed like 10, maybe 15%. But 25 is fucking ridiculous. And they're maintaining the 6 total hook states, which is crazy. And that's still on top of the fact that when a survivor that was previously hooked is killed or sacrificed, the killer loses the ability to block, damage, or regress generators by any means. And once again, for the rest of the trial. And something that Mr. Headache pointed out in one of his latest videos, isn't it just fucking condescending that they literally tell us good dog, bad dog on the HUD when it comes to hooking survivors? Yeah, seriously. A red mark for when you're naughty, and a gold star for when you're nice. Speaking of content creators with W takes, Mad Moon made the argument that the anti-tunneling and anti-slugging is so egregious, people might just tunnel anyways and just play endgame builds, say fuck it and throw their hands up. Which personally, if this was to go live, I totally see people doing that. Next topic on our docket. Now, I'm not the first person to make this observation, but on top of the killer buffs being blatant obfuscation, but I think that anti-tunneling penalties is obvious and blatant door-in-the-face tactics. That is to say, the killer buffs are purposefully confusing and misleading to make you think they're giving us benefits when in reality they're barely giving us anything at all, and the anti-tunneling penalties is them making a suggestion so absurd and so aggressively bad that when they dial it back to, let's say, 10% repair speed bonus, and generators can't be blocked, damaged, or regressed for the next 2 minutes or something along those lines, it's suddenly less egregious, not only pushing through the changes they were originally planning to put in the first place, but simultaneously getting brownie points with the community when people undoubtedly praise them for actually listening. Now, the last subject I would like to cover is the new perk changes. Full disclosure though, I'm not going to cover all the changes. You see, due to the anti-tunneling and slugging changes and the new elusive status effect, a lot of perks needed to be changed drastically, if not outright reworked. So I will be simply covering the perks I deemed most important, namely anti-gen killer perks. Because, as you might have surmised, as I and many others have predicted, and to no one's surprise whatsoever, they plan on nerfing many of the anti-gen killer perks. I'd make a joke about me being a psychic, but let's be honest, it's just basic pattern recognition at this point. Deadman Switch will be going down from 50 seconds to 35 seconds. Admittedly, this is predictable. Deadman Switch has been on Behavior's radar for a very long time. It is one of the strongest anti-gen perks in the game, as well as one of the few anti-gen perks that is actually usable by non-mobility killers. Now, assuming this nerf eventually does go through, the perk is still usable, or at the very least I can see its use cases, but honestly, at 35 seconds, you might as well just run Deadlock for the passive gen slowdown. Next on the list, rather predictably, is Pop Goes the Weasel, which will be going from 20% to 15%. Now, considering they just gave us Pop Base Kit, a 5% nerf, is uncharacteristically generous of Behavior, but they shouldn't be nerfing it at all, so whatever. Now, saving the most egregious changes for last, we have the Pain Resonance and Eruption changes. Pain Resonance is getting nerfed by a whopping 8%, making it almost worthless, and Eruption is getting nerfed by a whole 5% as well.
What the fuck is this?
It's bad enough they borderline killed the perk for non-mobility killers, but now it's just unusable, period. The point of the perk is the ability to regress and pressure multiple generators across the map. I mean, I don't understand why we keep Eruption's percentage so low, knowing full well how much it could benefit non-mobility killers. But at 5%, even mobility killers can't get use out of it now. Oh, and finally, the barbecue and chili rework I teased earlier. After hooking all survivors once, meaning 4 unique hooks, increase base generator damage by 3, 4, and 5% at max ranks. Yeah, that's right. For the low cost of an entire fucking perk slot, you can get an additional 5% damage on the generator whenever you kick it. Just so long as you get 4 consecutive hook stakes. Like, do I even need to point out why this is dog shit? You're only getting an additional 5% damage, and that's on top of having to have already hooked 4 separate survivors. Meaning, outside of a 3-gen situation, this is completely worthless due to the fact that, win or lose, the game is probably decided by that point. And look at these fucking percentages. 5% on eruption? 5% on this dog shit barbecue and chili change? 12% on pain res? This is basically behavior straight up telling us stop running anti-gen. Assuming all this nonsense in the PTB actually does eventually go live, what are they even expecting killers to do? They're already planning on making tunneling and slugging essentially impossible. Because setting all these garbage anti-gen changes to the side for a moment, they're already cutting our slowdown in half. Reason being, they're planning on getting rid of tunneling and slugging. Because here's the reality, that by itself is a way bigger anti-gen nerf to the killer than any of these anti-gen nerfs ever could be. Because you're taking the two most effective strategies at canceling out survivor efficiency and slowing them down. So not only are you taking away our best strategy for slowdown, but you're taking away all our slowdown perks, whilst completely ignoring gen rushing. Make it make sense. So I do realize I am talking as though this is a forlorn conclusion. And many of you are wondering why I'm so frustrated by this when they're already taking it back. Let me remind you, they're not taking it back. They're postponing this. And they're gonna come back with something less egregious, but just as bad for the health of the game. We cannot let any of these changes come in the slightest. If behavior is gonna be dead set on some form of anti-tunneling and anti-slugging, then it's up to us as the consumers to inform them, primarily with our wallets, that we are not fans of these changes. And honestly, behavior, really, if you're dead set on anti-tunneling, the best way to go about it is incentives, which you're halfway through the door with. Because I'll be honest, dial back the eruption nerf and replace the bullshit Pop Goes the Weasel base kit with a pain resonance base kit, then the rest of these perk changes could be actually justified due to the actual strength of such a change. Additionally, the weakened variations of the buff in the case of the top 5 killers would also be justified due to the strength of such a buff. And I'm not even advocating for that, because here's the reality. You know, and I know, that if there's any anti-gen perk that should be made base kit, it's Corrupt Intervention. Now, it would not be fair of me at all to mention all the planned anti-gen nerfs without at least mentioning behavior's plans to buff Ruin. More specifically, from 100% regression to 150% regression. Still a far cry away from the 200% of its glory days, but still a much needed and much appreciated buff. That all being said, I think I'm gonna end the perk conversation here and save any further information for a potential video about all the planned perk changes. And with that, I believe this video can come to a close. I am rapidly approaching the 30-minute mark, and I definitely will not allow my second ever balance video to become another hour-long rant. So, before you all go, I'll end this off by asking one simple question. If the killers can't win, and the survivors can't lose, is there even a game? Like, follow, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell for notifications, and thank you so much for watching. Till next time.